This is Uncle Bowo, and he's got a huge problem. See, he's the leader of the Indonesian jungle, and his administration just pushed a law that's a little, say, out of touch. This law? It hands out 3,000 US bananas a month in housing allowances to minister monkeys in Uncle Bowo's cabinet. To put that into perspective for our Western friends, that's 10 times what the average Indonesian monkey earns in an entire year. And this isn't for building schools, fixing roads, or even hitting any goals. It's just for existing in their jobs, on top of their already massive salaries. But regular Indonesian monkeys are confused. See, Uncle Bowo just announced that his team would be adopting austerity measures. In other words, budget cuts meant to fix the jungle's national deficit and fund national programs. So, how exactly does giving 3,000 bananas per month to already wealthy minister monkeys fall under budget cuts? Austerity for the average monkeys, but luxury for the elite? Just to put that into perspective, for most families, 3,000 US bananas could mean a year's worth of food, school fees, or a down payment on a home. But for the politicians, it's pocket change. Uncle Bowo and his cohorts defend the law as carefully calculated, but regular monkeys see it for what it is, carefully lining the pockets of politicians with more bananas than they'd need. All while the average Indonesian deals with the reality of economic uncertainty, layoffs, and stagnating wages. Naturally, this was like Uncle Bowo pouring industrial amounts of gasoline on an already burning fire, leading to the widespread protests and demonstrations we see today. But how did we get here? This seems to have started when Uncle Bowo's team proposed the real estate allowance, but there's been shady monkey business happening under the table for years. The real estate allowance was just the tip of the iceberg. And to Uncle Bowo, he saw no problem with the perks. Serving the public is no easy gig, right? They absolutely deserved it after all their hard work. But hard work doing what, exactly? You see, Uncle Bowo and his cohorts have been hard at work cutting budgets for healthcare, infrastructure, and family support, while simultaneously granting massive budget injections to the police and armed forces. Everything was going as planned in Uncle Bowo's eyes, and it was time to reward his team for all their efforts in making the jungle a better place. Or so he thought. The reality was that Indonesia's economy, and more importantly, its citizens, were suffering. Far beyond the gated communities and ivory tree houses, average monkeys were struggling to make ends meet. Professionals would find it hard to get ahead in the workplace, and when they did, raises were meager. Fresh graduates and students faced the grim reality of rising youth unemployment. And the cost of living was rising faster than many could handle. Uncle Bowo had promised to help curb these issues with school lunch initiatives guaranteeing meals for all school-going monkeys. In fact, these very promises were what got him in office in the first place. But when it came time to make good on his promise, execution fell flat. Government-provided lunches seemed to cause young monkeys to fall ill, and Uncle Bowo, now under pressure, blamed young monkeys for, quote, not washing their hands before eating. Regular monkeys didn't buy it, and while Uncle Bowo was fumbling around for excuses to justify policy failures, average Indonesians' frustrations simmered further. But this is just one of the many controversies surrounding Uncle Bowo's team, and the jungle government at large, ranging from embezzlement to nepotism to corruption. And the proposal of the lavish perks for politicians was the straw that broke the camel's back. And now, monkeys are taking to the streets to protest against the law, leading to widespread demonstrations and protests across the entire jungle. Uncle Bowo now finds himself in hot water. The jungle was burning, the monkeys weren't happy, and were taking to the streets to voice their frustrations. Even in Jakarta, the center of the jungle, protesters flooded the streets and clashed with riot police. Things were spiraling fast, and Uncle Bowo had to think of a solution before the fire grew out of control. Because of the anger, Uncle Bowo put the allowance on hold, while also promising changes to his cabinet. But while Uncle Bowo tried desperately to put out the fire he started, some of his teammates weren't too happy with the way things were going. But let me be clear, they were not happy with Uncle Bowo's response to the crisis, not the plight of the common monkey. In their eyes, the protesters had pressured Uncle Bowo to halt the allowance, robbing them of a windfall of bananas. Some minister monkeys even took to social media platforms like BikBok and Banana Book to voice their displeasure, calling the protesters the, quote, dumbest monkeys in the jungle, and to, quote, not compare them to the commoners. Classy. Uncle Bowo caught wind and suspended these minister monkeys, but the damage had been done. But Uncle Bowo still wanted to keep his team happy and hatched a sneaky plan. While the housing allowance was put on hold, Uncle Bowo was up to some chicanery behind the scenes and set his sneaky plan into motion. While the jungle burned, he quietly added a line item to the MP's remuneration package that reads, quote, "Fee for increased intense communication with the masses." What? Isn't communication with the masses part of the job when you're a minister monkey? Weird. But that's not even the worst part. This new add-on to their monthly salaries, it's 4 times the amount which was originally proposed in the real estate allowance. Uncle Bowo, you cheeky lad. However, he wasn't sly enough. Regular monkeys caught wind of this and blew it up on social media channels everywhere. You can already imagine how the protesters reacted to this news of Uncle Bowo trying to pull a fast one on the very monkeys that voted him into office in the first place. And were even responsible for a number of tragic deaths. But you might be thinking, how could they be so callous with their fellow country monkey? The simple answer, as always, is bananas. Bananas in the forms of promotions, awards, and dinner parties, thrown by none other than Uncle Bowo and his team. Instead of pushing for restraint and disciplining officers who went too far, the jungle government rewards their behavior and actively incentivizes it, with Uncle Bowo proudly claiming, quote, "All officers were promoted, given extraordinary awards for their service in the field, defending the jungle, defending the monkeys, and facing the elements." Now that's some major mental gymnastics. For one, Monkey personally would hardly call shooting at civilians and firing tear gas at doctors, defending the jungle. But you do you, Uncle Bowo. And with such preferential treatment from the government, it's no wonder the police are one of the most corrupt institutions in the entire jungle. See, a national poll found that roughly 1 in 3 adult monkeys have had experience with the police asking for bribes or settlement bananas. This has seeped into everything, from paying to get out of traffic offenses, expediting the renewal of licenses, and much, much more. But the question is this: if even the low-ranking beat cops are brazenly corrupt, just how bad is it at the higher levels of the institution? And get this, despite the endemic corruption, they're slated to receive a budget raise compared to last year. And that's the final piece of the puzzle. Like we say on this channel, always follow the bananas. Because now we have an idea of why the police are fighting so hard. They need to keep the bananas flowing. But all this mistreatment from both the jungle government and police force has only galvanized regular monkeys. And even as we're working on this video, new protests and demonstrations are still being planned. Indonesians aren't letting up the pressure on Uncle Bowo, but the question is, what now? Well, unfortunately, not much. Look, we like to end these stories with a positive note, but reality is that nothing much has really changed over the past few weeks. Other than Uncle Bowo scrapping the bill, all the other problems we talked about in the video are still running rampant. And there's no real sign that things will change for the better. Sure, there's been some lip service and token position swaps within Uncle Bowo's cabinet, but that's pretty much it. And let's not forget the proposed salary increase we talked about earlier. But even despite the bleak situation, regular monkeys still hold on to hope, and many even make light of the situation as best as they can. On social media, you'll see ordinary monkeys posting memes like using the leftover riot shields from the police as replacement doors, people dressing up like ghosts called kuntilanak hanging out on the sign of government buildings, and some even wearing superhero costumes and crowd surfing into a crowd of police. What's truly amazing is that this struggle manages to bridge so many gaps. Marching together against walls of riot police are young Gojek riders, aging Ibus, middle-aged uncles, and university students. But let's not forget the tragic, senseless deaths. Behind every meme, every viral video, remember that there are families grieving loved ones who never came home. Ordinary monkeys who paid the ultimate price just for daring to hope for something better or were unfortunate victims caught in the crossfire. And despite the harsh crackdown from police, you'll still see photos of average Indonesians placing flowers in the pockets of officers on duty. Honestly, Monkey has nothing but massive respect for their tenacity. In the face of chaos, violence, and uncertainty, they still find ways to laugh, to help each other, and to keep showing up with hope that tomorrow will be better. Even if it's just a little less bleak than today. That takes heart. And maybe that's the real story here. No matter how many problems the jungle has, it's still their home. They fight for it, they joke about it, and they cry for it, because at the end of the day, they love it all the same. And that kind of hope, that's something no minister monkeys can ever take away. So the next time you hear about the protests in Indonesia, you'll have an idea of what they're fighting for, and more importantly, why they're fighting so hard. If any monkeys are confused, this is a simple explainer of the protests happening in the Indonesian jungles. Please do not sue Monkey. Let me know what you'd like to see me cover next, and thank you so much for watching.